April 1st, 1945, Easter Sunday. Dawn breaks over the Pacific Ocean. The beaches of Okinawa are silent, almost peaceful, as if the island itself is holding its breath. The water is calm, reflecting the pale morning sky. Palm trees sway gently in the warm breeze. The sand is white, pristine, undisturbed. It looks like paradise. But this paradise is about to become hell. Offshore, barely visible through the morning mist, lies the largest armada ever assembled in the Pacific War. 1,500 ships, 40 aircraft carriers, 18 battleships, 200 destroyers, and aboard those ships 183,000 American soldiers and Marines, preparing for the last great invasion of World War II. They are about to land on an island just 350 miles from mainland Japan. An island that the Japanese have transformed into a fortress. An island where 100,000 Japanese soldiers wait in caves and tunnels, ready to fight to the death. An island where 300,000 civilians are caught between two armies, facing a tragedy that will claim over 100,000 innocent lives. An island that will become the bloodiest, most brutal battlefield of the entire Pacific War. A battle that will last 82 days, nearly 3 months of continuous savage combat. A battle that will kill more Americans than any other Pacific campaign. A battle so horrific, so costly in human life, that it will convince the leaders of the United States that invading Japan itself would be unthinkable. And a battle that will lead, inevitably and directly, to the most fateful decision in human history, the decision to unleash atomic weapons on Hiroshima and Nagasaki. But beneath that calm surface lies the gateway to Japan, the final step before the invasion of the Japanese homeland. And both sides know that whoever controls Okinawa controls the end of the war. For the United States, this is the last bloody push toward victory. After 3.5 years of brutal island warfare, Guadalcanal, Tarawa, Saipan, Peleliu, Iwo Jima, Okinawa is the final stepping stone to Tokyo. For Japan, it is the final line of defense, a place where surrender is not an option, a place where every man, woman, and child is expected to sacrifice themselves for the emperor. This is the Battle of Okinawa, the Typhoon of Steel, the road to Hiroshima, the moment when the world stood at the precipice of nuclear warfare, and the day when the sun rose on paradise, but set on horror. To truly understand the Battle of Okinawa, to grasp why it mattered so much, why it was fought with such ferocity, and why it led to the atomic bomb, we must first understand the long, bloody road that brought America to this moment. December 7th, 1941. Pearl Harbor. A quiet Sunday morning in Hawaii shattered by Japanese bombs. 8 battleships sunk or damaged. Over 2,400 Americans dead. The U.S. Pacific Fleet crippled. President Franklin Roosevelt calls it a date which will live in infamy. America enters World War II, united in rage and determination. But in the dark months that follow, the news only gets worse. The Japanese conquests, winter 1941, spring 1942. Wake Island falls on December 23rd. A handful of Marines fight heroically but are overwhelmed. Hong Kong surrenders on Christmas Day. The Philippines, America's most important Pacific possession, is invaded. General Douglas MacArthur and his forces fight desperately but are pushed back. By April 1942, Bataan falls. Corregidor, the last holdout, surrenders in May. Thousands of American and Filipino soldiers are forced on the brutal Bataan death march. Many die. MacArthur escapes to Australia, vowing, "I shall return." Singapore, Britain's great fortress in the east, falls in February 1942. Over 80,000 British and Commonwealth troops surrender. It's the largest surrender in British military history. The Dutch East Indies falls, giving Japan control of vital oil supplies. Burma is conquered, cutting off the Burma Road, China's last supply line. By mid-1942, Japan controls an empire stretching from the Central Pacific to the borders of India. Over 100 million people live under Japanese occupation. It seems unstoppable. But at midway in June 1942, the tide turns. In 5 catastrophic minutes, 4 Japanese aircraft carriers are destroyed. Japan's offensive capability is shattered. The myth of invincibility dies in flames above a tiny atoll. From that moment, America begins the long, bloody journey back across the Pacific. The island-hopping campaign, 1942 to 1945. Guadalcanal, August 1942 to February 1943. The First American Offensive. 6 months of brutal jungle warfare on a disease-ridden island. Marines fight not just the Japanese but malaria, dysentery, starvation. The jungle itself becomes an enemy. At night, Japanese soldiers infiltrate American lines. Banzai charges, mass suicide attacks, terrify the Marines. But they hold, and eventually they win. Guadalcanal teaches America a hard lesson. The Japanese will never surrender. They will fight to the last man. Tarawa, November 1943. A tiny atoll in the Gilbert Islands. Less than 300 acres of land. But it's fortified with concrete bunkers, artillery, and 4,500 Japanese defenders who have vowed to die rather than surrender. The Marines land, and they're slaughtered. Landing craft get stuck on reefs. Marines wade ashore through chest-deep water under withering machine gun fire. Bodies float in the lagoon. The beach turns red. It takes 76 hours to secure Tarawa. Over 1,000 Marines are killed. Nearly all 4,500 Japanese defenders die. The American public is shocked by the casualties. But it's only the beginning. Saipan, June-July 1944. A larger island, strategically vital. If America controls Saipan, B-29 bombers can reach Tokyo. The battle is savage. Japanese defenders fight from caves and jungle. When defeat becomes inevitable, thousands of Japanese civilians commit mass suicide. On the northern cliffs, over 1,000 civilians, men, women, children, leap to their deaths rather than surrender. Mothers throw their babies off cliffs, then jump themselves. American soldiers, watching in horror, realize this war will have no easy ending. Peleliu, September-November 1944. A small island that was supposed to fall in days. Instead, it takes 2 months. The Japanese defenders, led by Colonel Kunio Nakagawa, employ new tactics. No more banzai charges. Instead, they fight from fortified caves, bleeding the Americans white. The heat is unbearable, over 115 degrees Fahrenheit. Water is scarce. Men die of heat stroke. The coral rock absorbs heat, turning the island into an oven. By the time Peleliu falls, over 1,500 Americans are dead. Nearly 11,000 Japanese defenders die. Nakagawa commits suicide rather than surrender. Iwo Jima, February-March 1945. 8 square miles of volcanic rock, 750 miles from Tokyo. 3 airfields that could support the invasion of Japan. The island is fortified with 11 miles of underground tunnel. Every cave, every ridge is a fortress. The battle lasts 36 days. Over 6,800 Americans die, more than any other Marine Corps battle in history. 19,000 are wounded. Nearly all 21,000 Japanese defenders fight to the death. Only 216 are captured, most of them wounded and unconscious. The iconic photograph of Marines raising the flag on Mount Suribachi becomes a symbol of American determination. But the cost is staggering. Admiral Chester Nimitz, commander of the Pacific Fleet, will later say, "Among the Americans who served on Iwo Island, uncommon valor was a common virtue. But Iwo Jima is just 750 miles from Tokyo, not close enough for a full-scale invasion. Okinawa is only 350 miles from Japan. Close enough. Okinawa is the key. If America controls Okinawa, they can launch massive B-29 bomber raids directly at Japanese cities, stage a complete naval blockade of Japan, establish forward bases for the invasion of the Japanese home islands, cut off Japan's last supply lines. For Japan, losing Okinawa means the war is essentially over. The homeland will be next. Emperor Hirohito tells his commanders, "The fate of the empire depends on the outcome of this battle. Every man must fight to the death." Lieutenant General Mitsuru Ushijima, commander of the Japanese 32nd Army on Okinawa, understands the reality. He cannot win, but he can make victory so costly that America might negotiate rather than invade Japan. His strategy is simple but devastating. Bleed the Americans white. Make them pay for every yard. Kill so many that they lose the will to continue. It's a strategy of desperation, but it will prove terrifyingly effective. Planning for the invasion of Okinawa, codenamed Operation Iceberg, begins in October 1944. The The strategic importance. Okinawa is part of the Ryukyu Islands chain, stretching between Japan and Taiwan. The 60 miles long and 2 to 18 miles wide. Population. About 300,000 civilians, mostly farmers and fishermen. The island has several natural harbors and flat areas suitable for airfields. Most importantly, it's close enough to Japan for sustained air operations. American planners know Okinawa will be the toughest battle yet. Intelligence estimates suggest 60,000 to 70,000 Japanese defenders. They're wrong. The actual number is over 100,000. The American force, the largest amphibious assault force ever assembled in the Pacific. 10th Army, commanded by Lieutenant General Simon Bolivar Buckner Jr. Buckner is an experienced commander, son of a Confederate general. He's methodical, cautious, determined. Some call him too cautious. But he's chosen for his steady leadership. Under his command, Ziv Corps U.S. Army, 7th Infantry Division, veterans of AT-2, Kwajalein, Leyte, 27th Infantry Division, veterans of Saipan, but with a controversial record, 77th Infantry Division, veterans of Guam, Leyte, highly regarded, 96th Infantry Division, fresh, but well-trained, 3 Amphibious Corps, U.S. Marine Corps, 1st Marine Division, legendary veterans of Guadalcanal, Cape Gloucester, Peleliu, 2nd Marine Division, veterans of Tarawa, Saipan, Tinian, used as a feint, 6th Marine Division, newly formed, but includes many veterans. Total ground forces, 183,000 in the initial landing, with reserves bringing the total to over 300,000 by battle's end. Naval forces, 5th Fleet, commanded by Admiral Raymond Spruance, Victor of Midway. Joint Expeditionary Force, commanded by Admiral Richmond Kelly Turner, the Navy's amphibious warfare expert. The fleet includes 40 aircraft carriers, 18 battleships, 200 destroyers, 32 cruisers, hundreds of transports, landing ships, support vessels. Total, over 1,500 ships, the largest naval armada in history. Air power. The Navy brings nearly 2,000 aircraft on its carriers. The Army Air Forces provides additional support from bases in the Marianas and the Philippines. British Commonwealth forces contribute as well. The British Pacific Fleet, including carriers HMS Indomitable, Victorious, Illustrious, and Indefatigable. The plan, L-Day Love Day, is set for April 1, 1945, Easter Sunday. The landing will occur on the Higuchi beaches on the western coast of Okinawa, near the Kadena and Yantan airfields. The plan. 1. Land on the west coast. 2. Secure the 2 airfields immediately. 3. Cut the island in half. 4. The Marines push north. 5. The Army pushes south toward the main Japanese defenses. 6. Secure the entire island in 2 to 3 weeks. It's a good plan, but it assumes the Japanese will fight conventionally. They won't. The Japanese 32nd Army Commander, Lieutenant General Mitsuru Ushijima, 58 years old, a respected and thoughtful officer. He knows this battle is likely suicide, but he will do his duty. Chief of Staff, Lieutenant General Isamu Cho, younger, more aggressive, more fanatical. He pushes for offensive action. The 2 men balance each other, Ushijima's caution tempering Cho's aggression. Forces, 62nd Division Regular Army, experienced. 24th Division, reinforced with additional artillery. 44th Independent Mixed Brigade, Okinawan conscripts and regular troops. Numerous artillery, mortar, and machine gun battalions. Tank units, though tanks are obsolete compared to American armor. About 10,000 Okinawan Home Guard, poorly trained civilians conscripted for labor and combat. Total, over 100,000 soldiers, plus thousands of Okinawan conscripts. The strategy. Ushijima learns from Japan's previous defeats. No more beach defenses. No more banzai charges. Those tactics failed at Tarawa, Saipan, Iwo Jima. Instead, a new approach, defense in depth. Let the Americans land unopposed. Don't waste men defending the beaches. Instead, fortify the southern part of the island, the rugged, hilly terrain around Shuri. Build an impregnable defensive line. Force the Americans to attack prepared positions. Bleed them for every yard. For months, Japanese soldiers and Okinawan laborers dig. Thousands of caves and tunnels carved into limestone hills. Artillery positions hidden in caves, firing through narrow openings. Machine gun nests concealed in rock faces. Interconnected tunnel systems allowing troops to move unseen. Underground hospitals, command posts, ammunition dumps. Entire battalions hidden beneath the earth. The Shuri Line is the centerpiece, a defensive belt stretching coast to coast, anchored on Shuri Castle, an ancient Okinawan fortress. The line consists of 3 main defensive rings, each reinforced with natural ridges and man-made fortifications. 1. Outer Ring, Kakazu Ridge, Awacha Uresomura Escarpment. 2. Middle Ring, Maeda Escarpment, Hakuso Ridge, Kochi Ridge. 3. Inner Ring, Shuri Castle itself, surrounded by fortified hills. Behind Shuri, a second defensive line at Yeju-dake in the south. It's the most sophisticated defensive system the Japanese have built, and it will prove nearly impossible to break. Kamikaze tactics. In addition to ground defenses, the Japanese plan massive kamikaze attacks. Operation Tengo, Heaven No. 1. Thousands of aircraft, including obsolete trainers pressed into service, will be flown by volunteer and sometimes pressured pilots into American ships. The goal: sink enough ships to make the invasion untenable, or at least delay it long enough for diplomatic solutions to emerge. It's a strategy of desperation, but it will inflict terrible casualties. March 1945. The invasion force assembles at Ulithi Atoll, a vast anchorage in the Caroline Islands. The harbor is filled with ships as far as the eye can see. Sailors joke that you could walk from one side of the atoll to the other by stepping from ship to ship. The troops prepare. They clean weapons, check equipment, study maps, and aerial photographs of Okinawa. Veterans of previous battles know what's coming. They've seen it before. They know many of them won't survive. New replacements, fresh from training in the States, are nervous but eager. The veterans try to prepare them, but nothing can truly prepare someone for their first combat. Letters are written home. Many will never be sent. Chaplains hold services. Some men pray. Others try to sleep, knowing it may be their last peaceful night for months. The fleet departs Ulithi on March 14th. Takes days to reach Okinawa. On March 23rd, preliminary operations begin. The Kerama Islands, a small group of islands west of Okinawa. The Americans land there first, securing the islands for use as a forward anchorage and seaplane base. Resistance is light, but the Americans discover something chilling. Hundreds of suicide boats, small craft packed with explosives, piloted by single soldiers on one-way missions. The boats are destroyed, but the discovery confirms intelligence reports. The Japanese are planning something unprecedented. Bombardment. For a week before the main invasion, American battleships and aircraft pound Okinawa. Thousands of shells rain down. Napalm incinerates suspected defensive positions. The island disappears under clouds of smoke and dust. Surely nothing can survive this. But in their caves and tunnels, the Japanese wait, unharmed. The demonstration. On March 31st, the 2nd Marine Division conducts a feint landing on the southeastern beaches, making it appear the main landing will occur there. The Japanese are not fooled, but it ties up their forces and keeps them guessing. April 1st, 1945, L-Day, Easter Sunday. The fleet approaches Okinawa in the pre-dawn darkness. This is it. April 1st, 1945, dawn. At 4 a.m., the naval bombardment intensifies. Every ship with guns opens fire. The noise is deafening, a continuous roar of artillery that shakes the air. Shells scream across the water, slamming into the beaches. Explosions light up the darkness. The entire coastline seems to erupt in flame. At 5:30 a.m., the first wave of troops boards landing craft. Amtraks, amphibious tractors, and Higgins boats circle in the water waiting for the signal. Men sit in silence, gripping their rifles, feeling the boat rock beneath them. Some vomit from seasickness. Others stare at nothing, lost in their thoughts. At 8:30 a.m., the first wave hits the beaches. The landing craft ramps drop. Marines and soldiers brace for the worst. Machine gun fire, mortars, artillery. They remember Tarawa, where men died before touching the sand. They remember Iwo Jima, where the beaches were a slaughterhouse. But when the ramps drop, there's silence. No gunfire. No explosions. Nothing. The beaches are empty. The Americans move inland cautiously, weapons ready, expecting an ambush. Still nothing. They advance 50 yards, 100 yards, 500 yards. The beaches are deserted. The Japanese are gone. By 9 a.m., thousands of Americans are ashore. By noon, 60,000. The Kadena and Yonten airfields are captured intact, barely defended. By the end of the first day, the Americans have established a beachhead 4 miles wide and 1 mile deep. Total casualties, fewer than 200. It's almost too easy. Some Marines joke that this will be a walkover, but the veterans know better. The Japanese are somewhere, waiting, and soon they'll reveal themselves. April 6, 1945, 5 days after the landing, the American fleet lies offshore, supporting the ground troops, unloading supplies. At 3 p.m., radar screens light up with contacts. Dozens of them, then hundreds. Kikusui No. 1, the first mass kamikaze attack, is underway. 355 kamikaze aircraft and 341 escort fighters sweep toward the American fleet. Aboard the ships, alarms blare. General quarters. All hands to battle stations. Combat air patrol fighters scramble from carriers. They intercept the kamikazes over the ocean, shooting down many. But some get through. The destroyer USS Bush is attacked by several kamikazes. One crashes into her, starting fires. She's dead in the water. Then another hits, and another. The crew abandons ship. She sinks, taking 87 men with her. The destroyer USS Colhoun comes to Bush's aid. She's hit by kamikazes as well. Fires rage. She sinks within hours. 35 men are killed. The destroyer USS Emmons is hit by 5 kamikazes in rapid succession. She becomes a floating inferno. The crew fights desperately but cannot save her. She's scuttled. 60 men are dead. The battleship USS Maryland is hit. Fires break out. Damage control teams fight the blaze. She survives, but 16 men are killed. Across the fleet, ships are burning. Smoke rises from a dozen vessels. For the American sailors, it's a nightmare. They watch the sky, knowing death can come screaming from the clouds at any moment. One sailor later writes, "You can shoot them down, but you can't stop them. Even when they're burning, falling apart, they keep coming. And if they hit you, your ship becomes an inferno." The kamikazes are terrifyingly effective. Unlike bombs or torpedoes, which might miss, a kamikaze is a guided weapon, a plane and a pilot combined into a single suicide missile. April 12, Kikusui No. 2. Another mass attack, 185 kamikazes. The destroyer USS Maynard L. Able is hit by a kamikaze, then struck by a rocket-powered suicide bomb, a new weapon. She breaks in half and sinks in minutes. 84 men are killed. The battleship USS Tennessee is hit. 22 dead, 107 wounded. The carrier USS Enterprise, the most famous ship in the Pacific Fleet, is hit by a kamikaze that penetrates the flight deck. Fires rage, but her crew saves her. She survives but is heavily damaged. April 16th, Kikusui No. 3, 165 kamikazes attack. The carrier USS Intrepid, already hit multiple times in previous battles, is hit again. 40 men are killed, and so it continues, wave after wave, day after day. May 11th, Kikusui No. 6. The carrier USS Bunker Hill, Admiral Mitcher's flagship, is hit by 2 kamikazes within minutes. The first crashes into the flight deck, scattering burning fuel across the ship. The second hits moments later, smashing into the carrier's island. Explosions tear through the ship. Ammunition cooks off. Aircraft on deck explode. The entire carrier is engulfed in flames. The crew fights desperately. Men throw burning aircraft overboard. Damage control teams battle the fires for hours. Bunker Hill survives, but 389 men are dead, 264 wounded. She's out of the war. The picket ships. The most dangerous duty in the fleet belongs to the radar picket ships. Destroyers positioned in a ring around Okinawa to provide early warning of kamikaze attacks. These ships are alone, exposed, the first targets kamikazes encounter. The destroyer USS Laffey, on picket duty on April 16th, faces 22 separate kamikaze attacks in 80 minutes. Her crew fights with incredible courage. Every gun on the ship fires continuously. They shoot down some kamikazes, Others crash into the sea nearby. But 6 kamikazes hit Laffy. For bombs strike her. She's on fire, listing her guns destroyed. But she doesn't sink. Her crew refuses to abandon ship. They fight the fires, patch the holes, keep her afloat. Laffy survives, barely. 32 men are dead, 71 wounded. But she limps back to port, a symbol of defiance. By the end of the Okinawa campaign, kamikaze attacks will sink 36 ships and damage 368 others. Nearly 5,000 American sailors will be killed by kamikazes, more than the number of soldiers and Marines killed in the ground battle. It's the most successful Japanese tactic of the entire war, and the most terrifying. While the Navy fights kamikazes offshore, the ground troops push inland. The first week, April 1st to 7th, the Marines of 3 amphibious corps push north. Resistance is light. The Japanese have abandoned the northern two-thirds of the island. By April 18th, after bitter fighting in the rugged Motobu Peninsula, the Marines reach the northern tip of Okinawa. The north is secure, but XXIV Corps pushing south encounters the real defenses. April 4th, first contact. The 96th Infantry Division approaches Kakazu Ridge, a low hill south of the landing beaches. It looks ordinary, just another ridge, but it's the outer edge of the Shuri Line. The Americans attack, and they're slaughtered. Machine guns fire from concealed positions. Mortars rain down from hidden tubes. Artillery shells scream in from caves far behind the lines. The Americans fall back, shocked by the intensity of the resistance. They attack again the next day. Same result, and the next day, and the next. Kakazu Ridge, April 9th to 19th. For 10 days, the 96th Division hammers at Kakazu Ridge. Artillery pounds the hill. Aircraft drop bombs and napalm. Tanks fire at suspected positions. Then the infantry attacks. They climb the slopes under fire. Some reach the top, but Japanese counterattacks drive them back. At night, Japanese soldiers infiltrate American positions. Fighting is hand-to-hand, brutal. By April 19th, after massive artillery support and flanking attacks, Kakazu Ridge finally falls. The cost, over 1,000 American casualties. For one ridge, and there are dozens more ahead. The rain. On April 9th, it begins to rain, and it doesn't stop. For weeks, rain falls almost continuously. The ground turns to mud. Roads become impassable. Vehicles bog down. Supplies can't reach the front lines. The battlefield becomes a swamp. Shell craters fill with water. Men fight and sleep in mud. Everything is wet: clothes, equipment, ammunition. Trench foot becomes epidemic. Men's feet rot inside their boots. Thousands are evacuated with non-battle injuries. Disease spreads: dysentery, malaria, respiratory infections. The wounded lie in the mud, waiting for stretcher bearers. Some drown in flooded shell holes before they can be reached. The rain turns the Battle of Okinawa into a nightmarish slog. By late April, American forces reach the main Japanese defensive line, the Shuri Line. This is what the Japanese have prepared for, and it will take over a month to break. The geography. The Shuri Line stretches coast to coast across the southern part of Okinawa, about 8 miles wide. It's anchored on a series of hills and ridges, each fortified, each mutually supporting. Kakazu Ridge already taken, but just the beginning. Maeda Escarpment, Hacksaw Ridge, Kochi Ridge, Conical Hill, Sugar Loaf Hill, Half Moon Hill, Horseshoe Ridge, Shuri Heights and Shuri Castle. Behind these more defensive lines, each position is a fortress. Each must be taken individually at terrible cost. The Japanese tactics. The Japanese defenders fight from caves and tunnels. They emerge at night, reoccupying positions the Americans thought were cleared. Artillery and mortars fire from deep in caves. Then the guns are pulled back before American counter-battery fire can hit them. Machine guns fire from slits in rock faces, impossible to see until you're in the kill zone. When American troops overrun a position, Japanese soldiers retreat into tunnels, sealing entrances behind them. Then, at night, they emerge through hidden exits and attack from behind. Snipers hide in trees, in rubble, in spider holes. They target officers, radio men, medics, anyone who looks important. At night, infiltration teams creep into American lines. They cut throats, throw grenades into foxholes, create terror. Every yard costs blood. Maeda Escarpment, Hacksaw Ridge, April 26th to May 6th. The Maeda Escarpment is a 400-foot cliff, sheer on one side, heavily fortified on top. The 77th Infantry Division is ordered to take it. They attack, and they're driven back by withering fire. They attack again, and again. For days, the cliff is nearly impossible to climb under fire. Men are shot and fall hundreds of feet. Others reach the top only to be cut down by machine guns and grenades. But one man stands out, Private First Class Desmond Doss. Doss is a combat medic, but he's also a Seventh-day Adventist and conscientious objector. He refuses to carry a weapon. His fellow soldiers mock him, call him a coward. But at Hacksaw Ridge, Doss proves his courage beyond doubt. On April 29th, the 77th Division assaults the escarpment. They reach the top, but Japanese counterattacks force them to retreat. Wounded men are left behind, unable to be evacuated. Doss refuses to leave. While everyone else retreats, he stays on the escarpment, alone under fire. For hours, he crawls across the battlefield, dragging wounded men to the edge of the cliff. He fashioned a rope harness and lowers them down, one by one, to safety below. Again and again, all night. "Lord, please help me get one more," he prays. And he does. One more, then one more. By dawn, Doss has saved 75 men. Alone, unarmed, under constant enemy fire. He will later receive the Medal of Honor, the first conscientious objector to do so. Hacksaw Ridge eventually falls on May 6th, after days of brutal combat. But the cost is immense. Sugar Loaf Hill, May 12th to 18th. A small hill, barely 50 feet high, doesn't look like much, but it's the key to the western edge of the Shuri line. Whoever holds Sugar Loaf controls the approaches to Shuri Castle. The 6th Marine Division is ordered to take it. They attack on May 12th. They fight their way to the top. Then Japanese artillery from Half Moon Hill and Horseshoe Ridge, mutually supporting positions, tears them apart. The Marines are driven off. They attack again the next day. Same result. And the next day, and the next. For 6 days, the Marines attack Sugar Loaf. The hill changes hands multiple times. Units are decimated. Companies that start with 200 men are reduced to 30 or 40 effectives. Officers are killed. Sergeants take command. Then they're killed and corporals lead. The fighting is savage beyond description. No cover, no trees, just bare earth churned by artillery. Mud mixed with blood. Marines fight with rifles, grenades, flamethrowers, bare hands. The Japanese fight back with equal ferocity. Machine guns, knee mortars, grenades, bayonets. At night, both sides hold portions of the hill. Men can hear the enemy breathing just yards away. They throw grenades at sounds in the darkness. One Marine corporal, later interviewed, says, "I saw things on Sugar Loaf I'll never forget. I saw a kid, couldn't have been more than 19, take a direct hit from a mortar. Just gone. I saw a sergeant get his legs blown off and keep shooting until he bled out. I saw men cry, pray, scream, and I saw them keep fighting." Finally, on May 18th, after coordinated attacks that neutralized the supporting hills, Sugar Loaf falls. The 6th Marine Division has taken a single hill. Cost, over 2,600 casualties, killed and wounded. One hill. Conical Hill, May 11th to 21st. On the eastern side of the line, the 96th Infantry Division faces Conical Hill, a 476-foot peak honeycombed with caves and tunnels. The pattern repeats. Attack, get driven back, attack again. Artillery pounds the hill. Aircraft bomb it. Tanks fire at cave entrances. Then the infantry goes in. They climb the slopes under fire. They reach the top. Japanese counterattacks push them back. Day after day, flamethrower teams are brought up to burn out caves. They're shot down before they can reach their targets. Engineers use explosives to seal caves. Japanese soldiers emerge from other entrances and attack them from behind. On May 21st, after 10 days of continuous fighting, Conical Hill finally falls. Cost, over 1,500 casualties. Shuri Castle, May 29th. By late May, after weeks of grinding combat, American forces finally converge on Shuri Castle, the ancient fortress at the heart of the Japanese defense. But the Japanese have decided to withdraw. Rather than be trapped, Ushijima orders a fighting retreat to new defensive lines in the south. On May 29th, Marines from the 1st Marine Division reach the ruins of Shuri Castle. A Marine raises the American flag over what's left of the ancient walls. But the battle is far from over. Part 9. The Civilian Tragedy. Okinawa's darkest hour. Sound of crying, distant explosions, haunting silence. Narration **. Amid the military carnage, an even darker tragedy unfolds, one that will haunt Okinawa for generations. The Okinawan people. Okinawa is not Japanese in the traditional sense. The Ryukyu Kingdom was independent for centuries before being annexed by Japan in 1879. Okinawans speak a different dialect. They have different customs. Many consider themselves Ryukyuan first, Japanese second. But in 1945, they're caught between two empires at war. Over 300,000 civilians live on the island. Farmers, fishermen, shopkeepers, families who want nothing to do with the war. But when the Americans invade, they have nowhere to go. Caught in the crossfire, as American forces advance, civilians flee south, away from the fighting. But the fighting follows them. Artillery shells don't distinguish between soldiers and civilians. Bombs fall on villages. Naval gunfire pounds areas where civilians shelter. Thousands are killed by American firepower, not deliberately, but because they're in the battle zone. American soldiers, exhausted and under constant attack, sometimes can't tell the difference between a civilian and a soldier in the chaos of combat. Japanese propaganda. The Japanese military has filled Okinawans' heads with propaganda. The Americans are savages. They will torture you, rape the women, kill the children. Death is preferable to capture. Many Okinawans believe this. They've been told it for months. The Japanese government shows propaganda films depicting American atrocities, often fabricated or exaggerated. So when American troops approach, many civilians flee in terror. Or worse, the cave shelters. Thousands of civilians take shelter in caves. The same caves the Japanese military uses. When Americans attack these caves with flamethrowers and explosives, civilians die alongside soldiers. Sometimes American troops call for civilians to surrender, using loudspeakers in Japanese. But many are too terrified to come out. In one cave, civilians and soldiers are trapped together. The soldiers force the civilians to remain, using them as human shields. When the Americans attack, everyone inside dies. Forced participation. The Japanese military conscripts Okinawan men, including boys as young as 14 and old men, into militia units. They're given minimal training, ancient rifles, bamboo spears. They're told to fight to the death. Many are killed in suicidal attacks against American tanks and positions. They die for an empire that barely considers them Japanese. Okinawan women are pressed into service as nurses, cooks, laborers. Many die when field hospitals are shelled. The mass suicides, the darkest chapter of the civilian tragedy. The mass suicides. Convinced by propaganda that capture means torture and death, entire families kill themselves. Fathers kill their wives and children, then themselves. Mothers smother their babies, then take poison. Groups gather in caves and detonate grenades, killing everyone inside. At the southern cliffs, places like Mabuni and Itoman, hundreds of civilians leap to their deaths rather than surrender. Mothers throw their children off cliffs, then jump. Old men and women hold hands and step into the void together. American soldiers advancing through these areas find the bodies. They're horrified. One Army lieutenant writes in his diary, "We came across a cave today. Inside were about 30 civilians, men, women, children, all dead. Some from grenades. Some had their throats cut. Family. They killed each other rather than surrender to us. I wanted to vomit. What have they been told about us?" American troops try desperately to convince civilians to surrender. They use loudspeakers. "We will not hurt you. We have food, water, medical care. Please come out." Some do. Slowly, hesitantly, they emerge from caves, starving, terrified, barely alive. When they realize the Americans won't harm them, some break down crying. They've been lied to, but many never trust the Americans. The propaganda is too deeply ingrained. The numbers. By the battle's end, the civilian death toll is staggering. At least 100,000 Okinawan civilians dead, possibly as many as 150,000. About 1/3 of Okinawa's population, killed by artillery, bombs, starvation, disease, and their own hand. The Battle of Okinawa is not just a military tragedy. It's a humanitarian catastrophe, and it will influence American thinking about what invading Japan itself would cost. If this is how badly civilians suffer on one island, what will happen when the war reaches the Japanese home islands, where 70 million people live? June 1945. With Shuri fallen, the Japanese retreat to the southern tip of Okinawa, the Kiin Peninsula. Here, in the rocky, cave-filled terrain, they prepare for a final stand. But by now, the Japanese forces are shadows of what they were. Ammunition is running low. Food is scarce. Thousands are wounded with no medical care. Still, they fight. The American advance. The Americans push south, methodically clearing each position. But the fighting remains brutal. Every cave must be cleared. Every hill contested. Flame tanks are brought up, Sherman tanks equipped with flamethrowers. They advance on caves, spraying fire into the openings. The heat is so intense that it consumes the oxygen inside, killing everyone within. Engineers use demolitions to seal caves. They pack explosives at cave entrances and blow them shut, entombing anyone inside. It's grim, necessary work. The Americans have learned that leaving caves unsealed means Japanese soldiers will emerge at night and attack from behind. The final Japanese strongholds, Hill 89 and Hill 95, two small hills that become the site of the last major Japanese defensive positions. The 7th Infantry Division attacks. The fighting is savage. Japanese soldiers, knowing the end is near, fight with suicidal ferocity. Some charge American positions with nothing but bayonets. Others wait in spider holes and ambush passing troops. But American firepower is overwhelming. Artillery, tanks, aircraft all concentrate on these final positions. By mid-June, organized Japanese resistance is collapsing. Ushijima's end. Lieutenant General Mitsuru Ushijima and his chief of staff, Lieutenant General Isamu Cho, retreat to a cave in the far south. They know the battle is lost. Their army is destroyed. There is no hope. On June 22nd, Ushijima sends his final message to Tokyo. Our strategy, tactics, and techniques were all used to the utmost. We fought valiantly, but it is with great regret that we must now terminate our combat. That night, Ushijima and Cho dress in full uniform. They perform the ritual suicide, seppuku, cutting their bellies with ceremonial daggers while aides behead them to end their suffering. Their bodies are later found by American troops. With their commanders dead, the remaining Japanese soldiers have no leadership. Some continue fighting as individuals or small groups. Others hide in caves. A few surrender. June 21st, 1945. The U.S. 10th Army declares Okinawa secure. The battle is officially over. But scattered fighting continues for weeks. Japanese holdouts emerge from caves at night, attacking isolated American units. Some Japanese soldiers hide in the hills for months, even years, before finally surrendering or being killed. The last confirmed Japanese holdout on Okinawa doesn't surrender until 1949, 4 years after the war ends. When the fighting finally ends, the cost is almost incomprehensible. American casualties: 12,520 killed or missing, 4,907 Army, 2,938 Marines, 4,675 Navy, mostly from kamikaze attacks, 38,916 wounded, 26,211 non-battle casualties, combat fatigue, disease, accidents. Total, 77,647 American casualties, more than any other campaign in the Pacific War. Naval losses: 36 ships sunk, 368 ships damaged, 763 aircraft lost. The kamikazes alone killed nearly 5,000 sailors and damaged hundreds of ships. No other battle in U.S. naval history cost so many ships. Japanese casualties: over 100,000 soldiers killed, nearly the entire 32nd Army. Only 7,400 taken prisoner, most of them wounded and unconscious or Okinawan conscripts. The Japanese fought almost to the last man. The surrender rate is about 7%, the rest died fighting. 16 ships sunk, over 7,000 aircraft destroyed, mostly kamikazes. Okinawan civilian casualties: at least 100,000 dead, possibly as many as 150,000. About 1/3 of the island's population, killed by artillery and bombs. starvation and disease, mass suicides, caught in crossfire, forced participation in combat. The scale. The Battle of Okinawa is the bloodiest battle of the Pacific War. More Americans die here than at any other single battle, more than Iwo Jima, more than the Philippines, more than Guadalcanal. More civilians die on Okinawa than at any other Pacific battle. The psychological toll is immense. Combat fatigue, what we now call PTSD, is epidemic. Over 26,000 American troops are evacuated for psychiatric reasons. The 82-day battle grinds men down. They see too much death, too much horror. Many never fully recover. The commanders, Lieutenant General Simon Bolivar Buckner Jr., commander of the 10th Army, is killed on June 18th, just 3 days before the battle ends. He's observing the front lines when a Japanese artillery shell explodes nearby. Shrapnel tears into him. He dies minutes later. He's the highest-ranking American officer killed by enemy fire in World War II. His death, so close to victory, symbolizes the cost of Okinawa. No rank, no position provides safety. Death can come at any moment, for anyone. The Battle of Okinawa ends. But its impact is just beginning. In Washington, President Harry S. Truman and his advisors face the most momentous decision in human history. The problem: Japan refuses to surrender. Germany has surrendered on May 8, 1945 V-Day. The war in Europe is over, but Japan fights on. Despite being blockaded, despite having its cities bombed into rubble, despite losing battle after battle, the Japanese government refuses to accept defeat. The military leadership, particularly the army, insists on fighting to the end. They speak of 100 million deaths, the entire population dying in defense of the homeland. Emperor Hirohito is inclined toward peace, but he's constrained by the military and by tradition. The concept of surrender is anathema to Japanese military culture. Operation Downfall. The U.S. military is planning the invasion of Japan. Operation Downfall. It consists of 2 massive amphibious assaults. Operation Olympic, scheduled for November 1, 1945. Invasion of Kyushu, the southernmost of Japan's main islands. 14 divisions, over 300,000 troops in the initial assault. Goal: establish bases for the final invasion. Operation Coronet, scheduled for March 1, 1946. Invasion of Honshu, the main island, targeting the Tokyo Plain. 25 divisions, over 500,000 troops. Goal: capture Tokyo, force surrender. Total forces: over 1 million American troops, supported by Commonwealth forces. The estimates: military planners study the casualty rates from recent battles. Iwo Jima, 26,000 American casualties, including 6,800 dead, to secure 8 square miles. Okinawa, 77,000 American casualties, including 12,500 dead, to secure 450 square miles. If the pattern holds, invading Japan itself will be catastrophic. Estimates for American casualties in Operation Downfall range from: conservative estimate, 400,000 casualties, 100,000 dead. Moderate estimate, 800,000 casualties, 200,000 dead. Worst case, over 1 million casualties, 250,000 plus dead. One study suggests that so many Purple Hearts are manufactured in preparation for the invasion that the military is still issuing them to wounded soldiers in the 21st century. Japanese casualties, military and civilian, are estimated in the millions. Japanese military, 5 to 10 million dead. Civilian, potentially millions more. The Japanese are preparing for Operation Ketsugo, the defense of the homeland. Every man, woman, and child will be mobilized. School children are being trained with bamboo spears. Civilians are told to resist with anything: rocks, farm tools, bare hands. Thousands of kamikaze aircraft are being held in reserve.
Suicide boat, suicide submarine.
Suicide divers with mines attached to poles. The Japanese plan to turn the entire country into a fortress. Every beach will be defended. Every city will be a battlefield. Based on Okinawa, where 1/3 of the civilian population died, an invasion of Japan could kill tens of millions of Japanese civilians. The alternative: in July 1945, Truman is briefed on the Manhattan Project. The atomic bomb is ready. 2 bombs have been produced. Little boy, a uranium bomb. Fat man, a plutonium bomb. A test detonation in New Mexico on July 16 proves the weapon works. The blast is equivalent to 20,000 tons of TNT, a single bomb with the power of an entire bombing raid. Truman's advisors debate the options. Use the bomb. Could end the war immediately. Save hundreds of thousands of American lives. Potentially save millions of Japanese lives by avoiding invasion. But will kill tens of thousands of civilians instantly. Unleashes a terrible new weapon on humanity. Don't use the bomb. Invade Japan conventionally. Cost, potentially millions of casualties on both sides. The war could drag on for another year or more, but avoids the moral burden of using atomic weapons. Demonstrate the bomb. Detonate it in an unpopulated area to show Japan its power. But what if the demonstration fails? Or Japan doesn't surrender anyway? The US only has 2 bombs. Can't afford to waste one on a demonstration. Truman considers Okinawa. He reads the casualty reports. He thinks about the 12,500 Americans who died there, the 100,000 Japanese soldiers who fought to the death, the 100,000 civilians who died, many by their own hand. He thinks, if one island cost this much, what will the home islands cost? He makes his decision. The bomb will be used. August 6, 1945.
8:15 Uhr morgens.
The city of Hiroshima. A warm summer morning. People are going about their daily routines, walking to work, shopping in markets, children playing. High above the city, at 31,000 feet, a B-29 bomber named Enola Gay approaches. In its bomb bay is Little Boy, a uranium atomic bomb, 10 feet long, weighing 9,000 pounds. The bombardier, Major Thomas Farabee, lines up his crosshairs on the AIOI bridge in the center of the city. At 8:15 a.m., the bomb is released. It falls for 43 seconds. At 8:16 a.m., at an altitude of 1,900 feet above the city, it detonates. In an instant, the temperature at ground zero reaches millions of degrees. Everything within a half-mile radius is vaporized. People simply cease to exist. Their shadows are burned into walls and pavement, the only evidence they were ever there. The blast wave radiates outward at supersonic speed, flattening buildings for miles. The fireball rises, forming the now iconic mushroom cloud. Fires ignite across the city. A firestorm develops, with winds reaching 100 miles per hour, sucking oxygen from the air, incinerating everything. Immediate deaths, approximately 70,000 to 80,000 people. But the horror doesn't end there. Thousands more are horribly burned. Skin hangs from their bodies. They wander through the ruins, crying for water, dying slowly. Radiation sickness begins to appear within hours. People who seemed uninjured suddenly start bleeding internally, losing their hair, vomiting. Many die within days or weeks. By the end of 1945, the death toll will reach 140,000. August 9, 1945.
11:02 Uhr morgens.
The city of Nagasaki. The original target was Kokura, but cloud cover forced the bomber to divert to its secondary target. The B-29 Boxcar, carrying Fat Man, drops the plutonium bomb over Nagasaki's industrial valley. The explosion is even more powerful than Hiroshima's, 21 kilotons, compared to 15. But the hilly terrain of Nagasaki contains some of the blast. The destruction is immense but not as widespread. Immediate deaths, approximately 40,000. By the end of 1945, 70,000 dead. The 2 atomic bombings kill over 200,000 people, most of them civilians. In an instant, war enters a new, terrifying era. August 9, 1945, the same day as the Nagasaki bombing. The Soviet Union, which had maintained neutrality with Japan, suddenly declares war and invades Japanese-held Manchuria. The Japanese government, already reeling from the atomic bombs, now faces a 2-front catastrophe. 4 days, the Japanese leadership debates. The military wants to fight on. The civilian government wants peace. The emperor is torn. Finally, on August 15, 1945, Emperor Hirohito makes an unprecedented radio broadcast, the first time most Japanese citizens have ever heard their emperor's voice. Speaking in formal court Japanese that many citizens barely understand, Hirohito announces, "We have resolved to pave the way for a grand peace for all the generations to come by enduring the unendurable and suffering what is unsufferable. Japan has surrendered. The war is over. Across the Pacific, American soldiers, sailors, and Marines hear the news. Some celebrate wildly. Others sit in stunned silence, barely able to believe they've survived. Many think about the invasion of Japan they were preparing for, Operation Olympic, scheduled for just 2 months away. They know they would likely have died in that invasion. The atomic bombs, as horrific as they are, have saved their lives. On September 2, 1945, aboard the battleship USS Missouri in Tokyo Bay, Japanese representatives sign the instrument of surrender. General Douglas MacArthur presides. Fleet Admiral Chester Nimitz signs for the United States. Among those present are representatives from every allied nation. And standing nearby are American veterans, some who fought at Pearl Harbor, some who fought at Midway, some who fought at Okinawa. The war that began at Pearl Harbor ends in Tokyo Bay. World War II is over. The Battle of Okinawa ended on June 21, 1945. The atomic bombs fell on August 6 and 9. The connection between these events is direct and undeniable. The Okinawa-Hiroshima connection. Without Okinawa, the decision to use atomic weapons might have been different. Okinawa proved to American leaders that the Japanese would never surrender voluntarily. Civilians would die in massive numbers in any invasion. Even a small island cost 12,500 American lives. An invasion of Japan would be catastrophic beyond imagination. President Truman, reading the casualty reports from Okinawa, saw the future of Operation Downfall. And he chose atomic weapons instead. Years later, Truman would defend his decision. The final decision of where and when to use the atomic bomb was up to me. Let there be no mistake about it. I regarded the bomb as a military weapon and never had any doubt that it should be used. Historians debate this decision to this day. Arguments for using the bomb saved hundreds of thousands of American lives, potentially saved millions of Japanese lives by avoiding invasion, ended the war quickly, preventing further suffering. The Japanese government showed no willingness to surrender otherwise. Arguments against killed over 200,000 civilians, mostly women, children, elderly. Japan was already defeated. Blockade and conventional bombing could have forced surrender eventually. The demonstration could have been given first, set a precedent for using nuclear weapons. The debate will likely never be fully resolved. But one thing is clear, Okinawa shaped that decision. The legacy of Okinawa. Today, Okinawa is peaceful. The scars of battle have mostly healed, but the memory remains. The Okinawa Prefectural Peace Memorial Museum tells the story of the battle, honoring all who died, American, Japanese, Okinawan. The cornerstone of Peace Memorial lists the names of everyone who died in the battle, over 240,000 names inscribed on black granite walls. American names, Japanese names, Okinawan names, all together. The memorial's inscription reads, "To commemorate those who lost their lives in the Battle of Okinawa, and to convey the horrors of war and the preciousness of peace." Every June, survivors gather, their numbers dwindling each year. American veterans return, old men now, remembering the young men they once were. They walk the beaches where they landed. They visit Sugar Loaf Hill, Hacksaw Ridge, Shuri Castle. They remember friends who died. They honor the enemy they fought. They mourn the civilians who suffered. Japanese veterans, too, return. Some to honor their fallen comrades. Some to seek reconciliation. And Okinawan survivors come, carrying the heaviest burden, the memory of family members lost, of a culture nearly destroyed, of an island transformed into a battlefield. The lessons the Battle of Okinawa teaches us about the cost of war, over 200,000 dead in 82 days. Soldiers and civilians, victor and vanquished, all paying the price of nations' ambitions. About fanaticism, the Japanese refusal to surrender, even when defeat was certain, led to unnecessary deaths on both sides. Ideology and pride cost lives. About civilian suffering, war's greatest victims are often those who wanted no part of it. The Okinawan civilians, caught between empires, paid the ultimate price. About difficult choices, Truman's decision to use atomic weapons was made in the shadow of Okinawa. There were no good choices, only terrible ones and catastrophic ones. About resilience, Okinawa was destroyed, but it rebuilt. Today, it thrives, a testament to human resilience and the power of peace. The Okinawan perspective, For Okinawans, the battle is called Tetsu no Aim, the Typhoon of Steel, or the Storm of Steel. It destroyed their island, killed a third of their population, and scarred their culture forever. Many Okinawans feel they were sacrificed by the Japanese government, used as a buffer to protect the main islands, then abandoned. The mass civilian suicides, often encouraged or forced by Japanese soldiers, are a source of enduring pain. Today, Okinawa hosts major U.S. military bases, a continuing reminder of the war. Some Okinawans resent this. Others accept it as necessary. The debate continues. The American perspective. For American veterans, Okinawa represents the worst of the Pacific War. The constant combat, the rain and mud, the high casualties, the sight of civilian suffering, all took a psychological toll. Many veterans never spoke of their experiences. The memories were too painful. But those who did speak emphasized one thing: the courage of their fellow soldiers, the sacrifices made, the friends lost, and their belief that the atomic bombs, horrible as they were, saved their lives and the lives of countless others. The Japanese perspective. For Japanese veterans, Okinawa represents the end of an empire's dream. They fought with incredible courage, defending every inch of ground. But they were doomed from the start. Many Japanese veterans later expressed regret, not for fighting but for the civilian casualties, for the mass suicides, for the suffering inflicted on Okinawans. Some questioned the orders they were given, the strategy that led to such devastation. The universal truth: war is horror. Okinawa proved it beyond any doubt. Over 200,000 people died for a small island that would be returned to Japan in 1972 anyway. The Battle of Okinawa stands as a monument to the cost of war, and a reminder of why peace is worth any effort to maintain. April 1st, 1945, Easter Sunday. The beaches were silent, but in the 82 days that followed, the world witnessed one of the most brutal battles in human history. Over 200,000 people died: soldiers, sailors, civilians. An entire island was transformed into a graveyard, and from that graveyard a terrible choice emerged. The road from Okinawa led directly to Hiroshima. The lessons learned in the caves and hills of Okinawa, about Japanese determination, about civilian suffering, about the cost of invasion, shaped the decision to use atomic weapons. President Truman, haunted by the casualty reports from Okinawa, chose to end the war with nuclear fire rather than prolong it with conventional invasion. Was it the right choice? History offers no easy answer. But one thing is certain: Okinawa made that choice seem necessary. Today, we remember Okinawa not just as a battle, but as a warning about the cost of fanaticism and refusal to accept reality, a warning about the suffering of innocence in war, a warning about the terrible choices leaders face when nations refuse to yield. The Battle of Okinawa was the last great battle of World War II, and it changed the world forever. We remember the Americans who fought with courage, endured unimaginable hardship, and gave their lives for victory. We remember the Japanese soldiers who fought with honor, despite serving a cause that was doomed. We remember the Okinawan civilians who suffered the ultimate tragedy, caught between empires, their island destroyed, their families shattered. We remember all of them, and we commit ourselves to preventing such horror from ever happening again. April 1st, 1945 to June 21st, 1945, 82 days, the Typhoon of Steel, the road to Hiroshima, the Battle of Okinawa. May we never forget.